Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 1 of the OMNIA Performance Podcast. I am Fergus Crawley, and this is...
Big Johnny Payne. Have I ruined it already?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm Johnny Payne, and together we are...
OMNIA Performance.
OMNIA.
We didn't brief this.
You should have said Omnia and I should have said Performance. That would have been utterly terrible.
Exit stage left.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's who we are.
Yes, correct. This is episode number 1 of what is going to be a rather dynamic exploration of the things we talk about online.
Oversold it already.
It's a buy-in. So a lot of things we talk about online require context. A lot of things that we share with our clients, athletes, require context. And we are hoping that this is going to become the main channel to deliver said context. So today's going to be a pretty loose agenda in terms of laying out a bit of a stall, a little bit more background on ourselves, a bit more background on the business, direction we're going in, thoughts, feelings, a little bit of all of the above. And then there'll be some clear direction from episode 2 onwards with some guests to follow. So lots of exciting things to come. Looking to get these out once every fortnight at a minimum to start with, but with the intention of it being once a week, depending on a few logistical considerations. But I think we're just over 1 year. Well, actually, what are we? We are
13 months, almost.
Coming up to 13 months old. We've had a brilliant first year in more ways than one, from a sort of character building point of view, from a community building point of view, from a commercial point of view, from an experience point of view. We really, really enjoyed it. So first thing to say off the bat is just how thankful we are to community worldwide now, which is amazing.
Yeah, to our international community. It's worth echoing that. It's funny. Yeah. You've hit the nail on the head there. That should be the first thing we do, is say thanks for everything that we get from it, which we'll touch on, shall we, as we go through. But yeah, we get so much from this as individuals, and being able to kind of build a business out of it and reach so many people relies on you guys, So yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, and whilst this first couple of minutes has just seemed like this is going to be a podcast where we just sit here and chat a lot, it will be, for one, but it's also going to have a clear direction. We are wanting this to become a very, very in-depth version of the things that we talk about on a regular basis. We will get on everyone from our athletes, everyone from professional sports players, from academics, from everybody in between. And we'll just share these stories as we go. We'll share a little bit more of the things that inform our information, our methodology, our thought processes, and the people that inspire us on a regular basis. So really do hope you join along for the ride. So it's important to mention at this point that if you haven't yet done so, hit subscribe or follow, depending on what platform you're listening on. Immediately rate it 5 stars, because let's be honest, it's going to be 5 stars.
Yeah,
and
I'd say so.
Share it with all your mates, because we are going to go on a bumpy ride. Where do you go from here?
Hopefully get off the bike before we get a sore jacksy, if it's going to be a bumpy ride. I guess we should probably start at the beginning, which makes sense, doesn't it? And kind of, people are aware of who you are. People are mildly aware of who I am. And certainly anybody tuning this is likely to know who OMNIA is, but maybe won't know the backstory and how we got to the point where, like we say, 13 months old. And so there's probably a reason we got to the point where we started a business.
Yep.
There's probably a reason we got to the point where we even started talking about it. So let's flip that back over to you.
Yep.
Because our meeting comes from an idea that you had about bursting yourself in one of many different ridiculous ways.
So Andy Smith, for anyone in Edinburgh or the UK, you might be aware of him. Good friend of mine for years, actually lived with him for a while. He has the brother of my dog, Odie. He has Titan, so they are the Greek gods together. Andy was being coached by Jonny for a little while through a connection over in the States, Alex Viada, who is somewhat the godfather of hybrid training. In many ways, he wrote The Hybrid Athlete originally in 2012-ish.
I plump for that. Let's go with 2012.
Yeah.
If I'm wrong, then I apologize.
We'll say give or take. Now we're safe. We're safe. Okay,
well
thank you.
played.
And then I was in London at the time, 2018. I was working for Heineken. I just finished their graduate training scheme. I'd gone straight into a full-time role early because I had been performing well. I'd hit the metrics required to basically go into a full-time role in the London team at Heineken. And I then started to slip back towards a state of depression. I'd lost a little bit of connection to my training. I felt a bit directionless. I didn't feel like I had all that much purpose. So long story short, a lot of you will be aware of this already, but I looked into what I could do from a charitable point of view that would give me a sense of purpose, give me a training focus, and give me a reason to get out of bed in the morning and be excited about my day-to-day. I thought, what am I good at? I'm good at squatting. What charity am I interested in? Movember, moustaches, funny, breaks down the barriers a little bit, did a bit with rugby in the past. So then thought 500,000 men die by suicide every year, which is sadly a statistic that has since gone up. But as the charitable focus was going to be on suicide prevention and men's mental health, I thought, why not try and squat 500,000 kilos in 24 hours to represent that statistic, as you obviously...
Why not, indeed?
Obviously do. I then spoke to Andy, shared about what I was going to do. He was opening Lift Gym in Edinburgh at the time. It was opening in September, and the challenge was going to be on my 23rd birthday, I think it was, in 2018. So December the 12th, 2018 was when this challenge was going to go down. And I thought, why not turn it into a bit of a PR stunt for the new gym opening as well? Andy's very proud of this new gym. Very excellent. Lots of great, amazing kit. One of the best gyms in the country. If I can help get that out there a little bit through this campaign, great. Who should I get to train for it? Train me for it, rather. This man. So we actually met in a car park outside a Greggs in Slateford. So for those that don't know, Greggs is the major bakery in Scotland and Northern England that sells pastries.
Could have just said my office.
And there are lots of stereotypes at this point that you could go down. So the fact that we met outside of Greggs is rather hilarious. If you're not laughing at home, then you're probably from the other side of the world. But I think the reality of our...
Meeting at a cake shop. Really
is, yeah, we met at a cake shop, discussed what I was going to do. There was a bit of a nod and, yeah, I'll help you get through this from Jonny. And ever since then, there's been a real direct relationship in terms of coaching. I started as an athlete who had a very good understanding of strength background. I had a good understanding of endurance application from sort of younger years as well, but it wasn't something I practiced quite as religiously as I do now. So throughout that process, I've been absorbed into Jonny's methodology. I've been absorbed into the process. We have gone from strength to strength in terms of our relationship from a client-athlete point of view, from a friend-athlete point of view, from a sort of business point of view. And throughout that process, we refined what is now OMNIA's methodology. We have refined the protocols around that. We've gone on some interesting adventures. We've gone through some interesting charity challenges together, whether it's been you coaching and me as an athlete or both of us with Project Vertical. And throughout that, we've built what we feel is quite a unique offering in terms of resilience, in terms of training, and in terms of character building in the fitness industry space.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a decent potted history, really, of how we got to where we were in terms of building up. If I go back to when you approached me via Andy, I suppose, we were looking at, in the face of it, it was a squat challenge, you know, in the face of it, as far as you were concerned, really. I know you had bigger eyes on it than that, but squatting 500,000 was about squatting. Whereas my immediate reaction was, well, this is an ultra marathon, isn't it? This is an ultra event, which I think was interesting to you because although that made sense, you know, it was logically, oh yeah, it wasn't the way that you'd framed it in your mind. And that in of itself was a fun moment for me because somebody that was a kind of a powerlifting guy, you know, without marginalizing all the things you were doing with rugby, etc., but certainly from that background, a strength sports background, there was just a little flash in the back of your eyes that said, oh, you know, and like I say, conceptually.
It was more than a flash.
Oh, and then you lay on the ground for 15 minutes.
I went back into Greggs after we left.
Stopped, yeah. But that was interesting to me because it didn't change your will to do it, you know, which was very, very cool because what I was saying was, okay, this might seem like squatting, but this is not squatting. What we're going to have to do is actually train like you're an ultra endurance athlete. And there was no bulking from that. It was just a case of, okay, right, what do we do then? And as these things, you know, anybody tuning in and watching this will be able to kind of see the back catalogue now of different, essentially, endurance events that you've gone through Movember and then, you know, latterly kind of putting things together off our own back. But the long and short of it is we were now marrying very, very immediately these two kind of different sides of the spectrum. And to that point, that's something that I'd been doing with my business at the time, which was Painless Performance, and with Alex over at CHP. But very much that was kind of, it spoke to everything, which is why Andy put us together. It spoke to everything that I liked doing and everything that I wanted to do. And what's been fun for me has been seeing this kind of year-on-year evolution of these goals, these crazy kind of targets. And, you know, what the last big one for both of us was Project Vertical. All of them have been more and more leaning towards this kind of what we know as hybrid, you know, and all the while I'm in the background going, that this is a flattering comment, you should take it as a compliment, is that up until that point, my methodology, the way I was managing these things and the way I managed my business and the way that I addressed athletes' needs, I didn't want another coach alongside me. I wasn't interested in having it, because to teach them how I was thinking, to teach them how the philosophy and all the rest of it seemed too hard. I tried and failed as well on that. But you were so attuned to this process and so involved in it and soaking up all the information that it very quickly became a case of collaborative coaching, because you were able to look at it yourself and say, what if I do this? Would that be, et cetera, et cetera? And now we're thinking, okay, Fergus can coach this. And not only can he coach this, but he can lead this, and he can work this really well. So for me, it's like a second iteration of a coaching platform or a coaching philosophy that I had, but much, much more rounded now, because we have each other, and we can, even the methodology that I had, the way that I was working, you've been able to help me refine, and vice versa. So that's part of what has brought us to this point. I think this kind of marrying of different thought processes and even some of the mechanisms of the way we run the business that I just wasn't doing. As we know, having introduced, this is Fergus and this is this stranger Jonny Payne.
Well, I think
tells you how close to marketing I've been.
It's something that's important to cover, because I think from a front-facing point of view, just due to the nature of the fact that I create content for brands, for YouTube as well, we have a huge back catalogue and a huge amount of content that's sitting there ready to go on my phone, ready to upload. And on the website, we've got more photos available than me, just because of the nature of it's more of what I do on a day-to-day basis. But I think the main aim of this first podcast and the main aim of this conversational setting for everybody listening is to make it really clear that this is very much a joint methodology. I've been an athlete with Jonny for about a third of the time or a quarter of the time that you've been coaching in terms of your entire lifetime of coaching. So there's about 8 to 10 years of coaching that prefaces what we've done at this point. It's then the additional considerations from the additional athletes and clients we've brought on, the challenges and the variety that we've taken on through me has led us to the methodology that is now OMNIA. So it's very, very much a collaborative thing. So I think whilst you took the piss with the mildly aware of who Jonny Payne is, I think one of the real things we want to get across is just actually how integral and split down the middle this is in terms of a business and a methodology from a coaching point of view. We have the same amount of clients, same amount of athletes, and we have the same vision for the business moving forward. And we're not going to touch too much on the sort of commercial visions for what we want to go in. We're really going to talk about the fact that the real essence of what we want to do is get more people training in the way that we have found very valuable for ourselves. Yeah. And there are mechanisms that allow us to do that with more people at once, that allow us to broaden it in new ways, that allow us to do it in exciting, unique, new ways, I think. And we've got a lot of big ideas that we want to get people along the ride for. So it's a case of buying in and understanding that we take a lot from this as individuals, and that's why we truly believe in what we do, because we know firsthand how much better off as individual human beings we are, not just as athletes and the sort of people you see posting photos in the hills on the internet, because it's much more than that to us. It's a way of life, and I didn't want to chuck a cliche in that soon on to this new podcast, but it really is.
It's a way of life.
Ooh, where's the tattoo going?
Just there.
Neck, not forehead.
No, we'll keep that for something.
In omnia paratus. That's it. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. No, well,
I feel like I'm committed to that now.
Yeah, I think you have.
I was going to say you read it here, but you read it here first. There's another soundbite. Let's stop.
Yeah. So one of the main things we just want to cover today is actually the value we gain. So hybrid training is very, very varied, and for us as individuals, I know it's a really good way for me to calibrate on my own mental health, on my own day-to-day existence. It gives me new challenges. It gives me new things to learn. It gives me new administrational challenges. It allows me to explore new subcategories, sub-communities, lots of different things. And that's what life's really about in many ways. Another cliche, good grief. But it's allowed me to explore myself in a new way. And I think that is a real buzzword that I attach to the methodology that we put across. It's an exploration, whether that's self-exploration, whether it's exploration of your outdoor surroundings, whether it's an exploration of your physiological abilities to adapt, whether it's an exploration of how you work these things around a busy lifestyle, how it makes you a better father, better husband, better mother, whatever it might be. All these things go into the holistic health methodology that we really want to put across.
Drop the H-bomb. Holistic.
Well yes, played. This is a dangerous world we're now in, but it's something that we really truly believe in, and we know a lot of our athletes and clients do as well, which is why we're so passionately involved in the space, why we want to continue to grow and get more people along for the journey, because it's a big old world out there, and we like to explore it. Yeah.
I guess going back to what we said at the very beginning, I think the podcast, as it evolves, we want to bring in people who have benefited from that kind of process, people who sit within different compartments in that process, maybe in the strength world, maybe in the endurance world, maybe in a kind of a psychological endurance world, if there is such a thing. I know what I'm trying to say there. And bring these different people in and have their different perspectives and see if we can't take that and blend it back into our understanding and then evolve our understanding of that quote-unquote holistic viewpoint that we have. We want to be able to do as much as we want to be able to do without ever kind of cutting ourselves off from one opportunity because another opportunity is overwhelming it. And that might be the basis of the methodology itself, in that no physical thing, this interference effect, et cetera, does exist, but the contextualizing of that makes it very different proposition. So we can do strength work and we can do endurance work, but it's not just about those physical things, is it? For neither of us anyway, and we don't believe it is for. We certainly don't. We hope it is not just that for any of our athletes, really, and the feedback that we get is that isn't the case. We're actually trying to say, here's a new way of thinking, and here's a new way of kind of approaching these kind of things. Let's hope it feeds back into your life in a positive way, because it has done for us. So I think it's going to be fun to use this podcast and use this opportunity for us to kind of explore these things, because sometimes we don't get a chance just to reflect on that ourselves.
No,
either, do we?
We don't.
It'd be an opportunity for us to do that, but also an opportunity for us to then reach out and have you tell us who you want to speak to, reach out and bring people here with us and have those conversations and just get more and more perspectives. The more perspectives we can get, the more round this table, we can have people, the more we can all grow. I'm pretty excited for it.
I am too. And I think at this point, keen to echo that if anyone has anyone they'd like to have us chat to, any topics you'd like us to cover, any questions you've been burning to ask and have answered in a long form content format, then this is your time to do so. So do just drop us a line on Instagram via the website through info@omnia-performance.com. And we will do our very best to work everything in. But the aim is to make episode 2 onwards a little bit less of an introduction and more of a focused, structured conversation in which we give you things to take away. We give you people to take things away from. And we can, as you just said, we can reflect on a lot of the things that we do on a regular basis that we gain from the way that we train, from the methodology that we implement, but actually don't often necessarily talk to one another or those around us about quite as much, because it's just what we do now. I think that's a good point that I hadn't even thought of going into today. So that's a nice thing to take away from this.
Yeah. Let's literally just open up the conversation. I'm excited for it. I think it's an opportunity to learn, and if we can then give that back somehow, then that's wonderful for us. But that and plus we'll get these cups filled with whiskey at some point and see what happens.
Yeah. So next week onwards, I think episode 2, we will make an introduction to hybrid training in conceptual terms, and then we will really build out the narrative from there, from an experiential point of view, from an academic point of view, from a scientific point of view, and from the athlete's perspective, from the coach's perspective. We've got a lot of really exciting people to get on. We've got a lot of exciting conversations to have. So hope you're along for the ride, and do please make sure, as I've said already, to hit the follow or subscribe button. Make sure to rate and review the podcast, although there's not much to rate and review at this point beyond what you already know.
At this point, you're just rating and reviewing our haircuts.
Which I think it's fair to say are pretty excellent. So nonetheless, thank you for listening, and we will speak to you very soon.